learning English but find it difficult, confusing, even mysterious? Are you an English teacher but find English grammar easier to use than to explain? Well, don't worry. On this show, I'll be your language detective. I'll answer your questions about the English language and help you solve these English mysteries. It's Hard-Boiled English Live. Hello, 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 all you hard-boiled English hammers. Welcome to the show. I'm Paul Duke, your host, English instructor, tutor, coach, and language detective. On this show, I answer your questions about the English language right here, live. For those of you who don't know me, I am the host and creator of the YouTube channel Hard-Boiled English Live. Hard-Boiled English with Teacher Paul. That's the channel. And on this channel, you can find my video series such as English Weirdness. English Weirdness is a long-form English investigation into the strange side of our language, English. I make this with my students. It features animations and dramatizations and really detailed explanation that should solve your English mysteries for you. Once a week, I also host a free Zoom meeting. I call this the Conversation Cafe. Thursday mornings at 7 a.m., Vancouver time, that is. Admission is totally free, but you do need to register in advance, guys. So find me on Facebook at Hardboiled English and register in advance for this fun event. It's a great chance for you guys to practice your English, meet some international friends, and have a good time. If you need extra help with your English, I am also here for private lessons. So go to my website, www.teacherpaul.ca, and find out the details there. And you have a contact form you can reach me through and tell me what you need help with. I'm happy to help with any sort of English, be it college essays, general English, basics, whatever you need. Contact me and we'll make a plan for your learning. Great. So the format of this show is simple. You just ask me questions in the comment box and I'll do my best to answer them live on the show. Time is sometimes limited though, because sometimes I bring a special guest onto the show, and tonight is one of those nights. At the half-hour point, I'm going to welcome a guest on the show. In the meantime, we have a little time for questions and our vocabulary word of the day. To start with though, guys, as usual, I want you to say hello in the comment threads and tell me what country you're watching from. Already we have Chris from Belgium. Welcome to the show, Chris. We have Pony. Pony's in Mexico. Welcome, Pony. Who else is with us? So say hello in the comment thread. Tell us where you're from. And we'll get rolling. We stream every week, Friday night, in Vancouver at 7 p.m., as you can see. We also stream to Facebook. We stream to YouTube. We stream to LinkedIn, Twitter, Africa TV, FC2. There's somewhere else. Working on a whole bunch of new platforms. Hello to Yoshishige from Japan. Hello also to Syed Mujib from Pakistan. Welcome. There was something above that. What was that? No, the one above. Hello to Satoru. Hello to Jack. Okay, Jack, it's not cool to advertise on my show, so that's not cool. But thanks for watching anyway. Hello to Maria. Maria Cristina from Brazil. Hello to Sujay from Bangladesh. Actually, can I see this? And hello to Estrella, hopefully I'm saying that name right, Estrella from Mexico. We have Iraq Ali from India. Welcome. Who else is watching? Sujay from Bangladesh. Chris from Brazil. Yes. Great. Got a good bunch of folks with us tonight. Who else do we have? We have Jesse Reyes. Jesse, what country are you from? Please tell us what country you're watching from, guys. Get a sense of our community of English fans here. We have Danica Mikeller. Where are you watching from? What country are you in, guys? We have Ricardo from Mexico. Welcome. Who else is joining? Paulina Moreno. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everyone's welcome. Thank you for watching tonight. Guys, to get started, we're going to move right into our vocabulary segment. Rehana from Pakistan. Welcome, Rehana. Nice to see you. Irazima from Mexico. We have Husnain from Pakistan. Great. Lots of friends with us tonight. So let's move into our vocabulary segment, guys. Every week I like to introduce a new piece of vocabulary, and I'm focusing on adjectives, and in particular, positive adjectives. The reason is my students are always using the adjective good, and there are so many better adjectives that are more specific to the context or meaning that you want, and have a more precise meaning than good. Good is pretty general, pretty broad, pretty meaningless. It only really works in speech when you're in a context that you share with someone. Okay? So this is a segment I like to call Words to Use and today, amiable or amiable. It can be pronounced both ways, depending. I think British people would prefer to say amiable. Americans, North Americans, including Canada, would probably say amiable. But the meaning is quite simple. Having or displaying a friendly manner. And we usually describe people with this adjective, such as he is amiable. She's an amiable person. You know, basically it means friendly. They get along with others well. They're kind. They're polite. And they display a friendly manner. Where am I? Display a friendly manner, okay? So what I'd like you guys to do in the comment thread is make me a sentence using this adjective, amiable. Okay, remember, we usually describe a person because they have to have or display a friendly manner. So you could describe an animal like your pet dog or cat as amiable, but I wouldn't call this hammer, my little hammer here, I wouldn't call this amiable, right? It cannot, first of all, it can't have, and it generally can't display a behavior. So this is referring to people. Okay, so make me a sentence with that. Okay, let's see what you come up with here. In the meantime, I'll say hello to Ovi Angelica, Robin Cardillo, hello, hello, hello. Did I miss anyone earlier? Okay, Chris has a good example here. She says, I like to negotiate amiably. Amiably. I like to negotiate amiably. I like to go negotiate amiably. Okay, Angel, okay, good. Paul is amiable person. Thank you very much. I try. Hello, hello to Ramses Ramirez and Riaz Alawala. Please tell me what country you're watching from, guys. We'd like to get a sense of our community here. Hello to Marco Perez. So guys, we're trying to make sentences with this adjective, amiable, which usually describes a person, kind of like this. He is amiable, she's an amiable person. Okay? Give me your examples. Hello to Maffer Dillman. Maffer's in Mexico. Okay, guys, try making a sentence with this adjective, okay? So far we've had one. Let's see what else you can come up with. That's weird. Get the cursor right in there. Huh? Here, try this. Sorry, guys, just having a little trouble with the connection here. Angel, if you're watching, can you please put another comment in? Just say hello in the comment thread, Angel. Sorry, guys, we sometimes have technical problems with our stream. Okay, we have an example here. My neighbor is an amiable guy. Great. Great sentence, Chris. We have Ricardo's example. He says, he is an amiable personality. Great. Actually, in this sentence, you should probably say he... Oh, sorry, you do. I'm misreading it. It's a little far away. My old eyes, Ricardo. Okay, there's... What else do we have? Okay, anyone else have an example for us? Sorry, guys, one moment. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, we have Marco Perez says she is an amiable and is a pretty woman. Okay, almost. What we have to do here is when you say she is an, now we're expecting a noun. And amiable is an adjective. So you need to say she is an amiable and pretty woman. So cut out that second is. Okay? Great work, guys. We have another one. Sharing your lunch with your friend was very amiable from you. Okay. Let's change this slightly. It should be sharing your lunch with your friend was very amiable of you. Amiable of you when you're describing your behavior. We also have Eric is amiable to me. Good. Good. You guys are doing really well. Okay, we have Satoru's example. My friend is an amiable person. Great. Hey, I'm happy to hear that. We all need amiable friends, right? We don't want the opposite. We have Adru Rezita from Mexico with us. We have Tirath from Nepal joining us. Welcome to the show, guys. We have a big group with us tonight. Great to see you all. We're going to bring a guest on in a few minutes. In the meantime, we're working on this adjective, amiable, having or displaying a friendly manner. So if you want to try a sentence, if you haven't yet, try using it. Tirath has an example right away. Fast, I like it. We need to be amiable. Rigid persons may not be suitable. Okay, now Tirath, you have two sentences here with two different subjects. And the problem is you're connecting them with a comma. In English, we can't do this, okay? So you need to either put a period after amiable or a semicolon. In English, the comma cannot connect two independent clauses. And these are independent clauses because, look, you have two different subjects. You have the same verb, be, but when you have two different subjects, it changes the idea of the clause. It makes it independent. Okay, Marco says, Syed says, it is amiable act to help others. Yes, it is. It's an amiable act. Good. And Marco says, the teacher is very amiable person. Okay, good. You guys are getting the hang of it. Getting the hang of it. Okay, guys, we have a few minutes before our guest joins us for questions. So do you have any English grammar questions? I have a couple of leftovers from last week, but they're going to take some more time to present. So I'm going to deal with those next week, guys, because this week I want to reserve some time for our guest. So do you guys have any quick and simple questions that I can answer in the next 10 minutes? We have another example. Mentor is amiable for pupils. Good. Good. And by the way, guys, you can ask questions live on the show. You can also contact me on social media like Facebook or Instagram or YouTube and ask me questions. Just look for Hardboiled English and give me your questions in advance, and I'll make sure they get on the show that week. We have a very amiable companionship. Okay, great example, Rehana. Wonderful. One of these days, Rehana, I'm going to have you come on the show with me, okay? I want to invite you. We also have some friend from Korea. My Korean friend, what's your name? Is that Jay? Saying, hello, my lovely teacher, Paul. It is good that I hear that mild voice of you. Thank you very much. But I'm not sure who you are because I can't read Korean Hangul. So please tell me your English spelling name. And if you have any questions, guys, I have a few minutes to answer some. In the meantime, I'm going to clear my board and get ready for some explanation. And then we'll address your questions, and then we'll visit our guest. So let's get rid of the vocab. So that's our segment, guys. Words to use instead of good. And today's word is amiable. And we have a very amiable guest coming on. Oh, joining the show also is Katongo Chanda. Katongo, what country are you in? We'd like to get a sense of our community here, so please tell me what country you're watching from. Rehana has a question. Rehana, please ask questions. If it's too big of a question, I may need to address it next week because we have a short amount of time before our guest joins us. So, Rehana, what's your question? Go ahead and ask your question, guys. In the meantime, what I'd like to do is also remind you that every week I host a conversation cafe where you can join and practice your English. We do this every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's Vancouver, west coast of North America. It's a free event. All you have to do is register in advance on Facebook, and we'll set you up. And you can join our meeting and meet some friends from around the world. So far, it's been really fun. And I'm also available for private lessons, of course, if you need help with your English in a more intense way. Okay, let's see if we have any comments. Saeed has a good question. I like it. Sir, can we use would 2 times in a single sentence? Okay, no, you shouldn't. I'm going to be short with this explanation, but when you ask a question about would, you're asking a question about conditionals, okay? And I have a great video on my YouTube channel that explains conditionals in depth. So I'm just going to quickly put the link to that video in the comment thread because I want you to watch that, but I'll give you the short answer here, okay? And after our show today, I want you to watch this video because it explains the full range of details regarding conditionals. But here's a conditional sentence. Here's a classic. And a conditional features 2 clauses. Okay? If I had $1 million, I would buy a Ferrari. Okay? But I don't have $1 million, so I'm not going to buy a Ferrari. Okay? And here's would. And there's 2 types of conditionals, and 2 of them are not real. So as you can see, what I'm saying here is hypothetically, if I had $1 million, I would buy a Ferrari. But the meaning is that clearly I do not have $1 million. Therefore, I will not buy a Ferrari. This will not happen. And the would tells us that it won't happen. It tells us this is an unreal idea. It's an imaginary hypothesis. And this is where the would goes. Okay? Now, I know that some learners get stuck here, and they'll say this. If I would have, if I would have $1 million, I would buy a Ferrari. Okay? Some languages work like that to express conditionals. I might be mistaken, but I believe Russian does. So often my Russian students, when they use their English, they fall into the habit from Russian grammar, which involves 2 of those, but that's not English. Okay? In English, we just want 1. So in English, instead of saying, if I would have $1 million, you just say, if I had $1 million, this would happen or would not happen. Okay? So you shouldn't use would 2 times in one sentence because the would exists to signal to us that this meaning is not real. This is not true. It's hypothetical. It's imaginary. So you only need to signal that once. You only need to tell your listener or your reader once that this is not real. Okay? You don't need to constantly tell them. So that's the quick and simple answer. Okay, I'm going to erase the board, and I see one about humble and amiable. This brings up a really good point. Often, students ask me, what's the difference between this and that? And it's because I think a lot of teachers will tell their students a synonym is 2 words that have the same meaning. But I'm here to tell you that's not true. If we have 2 different words in English, we have 2 different meanings. They might be close, they might be similar, but they're never exactly the same. Otherwise, we wouldn't need two words. So I want you to get into the habit of understanding that synonyms are different meanings. They're slightly different. So the more vocabulary you have, the more you can express slightly different meanings. Now, I said earlier that amiable means having or displaying a friendly manner. Humble doesn't mean that. Now, in reality, a person can be amiable and humble, but humble is a different meaning. Humble means that person does not think themselves as special. Okay? They don't think they're special. They might not be friendly, though. Okay? Amiable people are friendly and want to make friends and they want to chat and they want to say nice things to each other. That's amiable. Friendly, maybe even outgoing. Humble people may or may not be amiable. But if you ask them, hey, what you did was so awesome, they'll say, no, it wasn't. It was nothing special. A humble person is modest. They don't believe they're doing anything special, especially when they really are, right? Like if a professional sports player or an Olympic athlete wins a gold medal and everyone's going, wow, you're amazing. And they say, no, I'm just a regular person and I worked hard. That's being humble. That's placing yourself down to earth like a regular person. Okay? Doesn't mean you're friendly. You might be quiet. You might even be super shy. A humble person may not be amiable. They may, but they may not. So they don't necessarily work together. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Okay? So that's the difference between those two. So if you really want to understand vocabulary, guys, there is no substitute for the good old-fashioned dictionary. Look up the word, understand its meaning, right? And understand how it's different from another word's meaning. The other thing about two words, when students ask me, what's the difference between this or this? They may not understand that the part of speech is different. The word could be very similar spelling. It could be a similar meaning, right? But maybe one's an adverb and one's an adjective. So sometimes that's the difference. Rihanna says, how can I memorize the vocabulary? Well, there's lots of different techniques, you know. You can use flashcards to memorize vocabulary, right? Have the word on one side, the meaning on the other, and quiz your friend. That's especially useful if you're preparing for a test. But really, there is no substitute for learning vocabulary in context and then using it in context. So reading, right? Reading anything, really. An essay, an article, a story, and seeing the word used in a context. A context is a larger meaning than just a word or a sentence. It's part of a story or part of an idea. When you see the word in context, you can understand its meaning better. You can also read the dictionary. Now, that might sound boring, but when I was a kid, that's what I did. I read the dictionary. I read a new word, at least one word every day, and then tried to use it. Sometimes I would try to impress my friends or my family by using a fancy word, but at least I was using it. I don't think memorizing, Rihanna, is a useful strategy, though. Because generally, if the word's not important to you, if it's not a word you're going to use in your job or your daily life, it'll go in your mind and eventually get lost. The thing is to do is to learn a word and use it, right? This is where writing practice helps. You may not understand this or realize this, but writing and reading actually help your speaking. Because if you can read a sentence that you've never seen that structure before, you can say it. And if you read a new word in a context and you can grasp the meaning, you can try and speak it. So it's better to learn words, vocabulary in context. Satoru has a good question here. This is a great idea. Satoru's asking if these words are related. So in Spanish, and our guest will help us with this, in Spanish, the word amigo means friend. And amiable, we said, is an adjective that means friendly. So clearly there's a connection. I don't know if you understand this or not, Satoru, but English, French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese all share a common language beginning, which is Latin. Latin was the language of the Roman Empire. Before there was a Britain, before there was a Spain, a Portugal, there was a Roman Empire, and Latin was the language. So when all these parts of the Roman Empire became nations, Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, and then eventually England, Latin was left behind. And Latin has influenced our grammar, but it's also influenced our word. So there is a relationship, and the relationship is ami. In fact, and it means friend. Ami means friend. In fact, in French, that's the word for friend. Right? So there's definitely a connection here. And you can see the suffix in the adjective, amiable. Able means have the ability to be a friend. Well, if you want to be a friend, you need the ability to have a kind and friendly nature, right? So the ability to be a friend is what amiable means. Okay, I want to say hello to a couple people I missed, I think. I saw Iris, Veronica, Viotka, Rod, Joseph, Josie, Vivi, Miguel, Zarate, Adril, Tinka is with us, Natalia. Wow, we have a full house today, guys. This is wonderful. If I've missed you, I'm sorry. I'll catch you eventually. We have Sensei Nakahara. Hiroko Nakahara is joining us. I'm going to clear the board, guys, and then I'm going to bring our guest on, okay? So let me just clear the board. Thank you all for joining us. It's a big lineup today. Gosh, I'm surprised. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have lots of friends from all over the world with us. The greatest pleasure I get from this show, guys, is every week seeing so many of you joining the show and watching the show from so many amazing, interesting places. It's just fantastic. We have Japan here, we have Nepal, we have Brazil, we have Mexico, I think we have Poland. We have Pakistan, we have Bangladesh, India. Great, just fantastic. Okay, I want to introduce you to my friend and guest today. My guest is a young man who is very impressive. I want to back up a step because out there in the English teaching business, there is an idea, a perception that I disagree with. There's a lot of people out there who think if you want to learn English, you have to study with a native English speaker like me. I was born in Canada. English is our language here. I've been speaking English since I was a baby. Okay? As a teacher, I don't want you to think I'm a good teacher because I'm a native speaker. If you think I'm a good teacher, it's because I know how to teach, I know how to explain, I know how to help, and I care to. It's not my native speaker status that makes me good, if you think I'm good. So I don't believe you have to be a native speaker of English to be a great teacher. I really don't think so. That is a myth that's out there in the business, and I wholly disagree with it. So I'm going to introduce you to a very interesting young man. He is an English teacher, and he teaches in Mexico. And he's been teaching English since he was 17 years old. So I want to welcome him to the show and introduce you to him. His name is Angel Ramirez.
Hello.
Hi, Angel.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi. I'm fine, thank you. How about you?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for joining today.
Oh, thanks to you for the invitation, actually.
My pleasure. It looks like we have some of your students watching tonight.
Yeah, I invited them, so I have some students here just watching the
Great.
video for fun.
It's fantastic. So I mentioned in the introduction that you started teaching when you were 17. So how old are you now, if you don't mind my asking? Because you're younger than me.
Yes, the thing is that in the place where I live, it's really difficult to learn English. So I started to study English when I was uh, 15, and when I was 17, I got like a offer to teach English in a private school. So I started teaching when I was 17, and it's
Amazing.
kind of crazy because some of those students now they are married. uh, I had kids. Now they are like big men now,
Hmm.
and that's why I started to teach when I was really young.
Yeah. Tell me something. When did you start learning English? When did you start studying or learning English, and how and where?
How and where? Well, that's a difficult question for me because actually I was one of those students that struggled with English. So when I was in secondary school, I was going to fail. I was going to repeat the year just because I got bad notes in English. I got good notes in the rest of the subjects, but with English was not the same. And the my teacher talked to my parents and told them that I was going to repeat the year. So it was like, I don't want to repeat the year just because of one subject. And my parents sent me to courses to try to uh, save the year. And that's
Yeah.
how I started to learn English. And actually, I didn't like it because I found it really difficult to me. So when I realized that it was not difficult, I started to learn English just by hobby,
Hmm.
for hobby, I'm sorry. So that's how I started to learn English. I took some courses. When I finished those courses, I went to the university to study the BA in English language. And when I finished the BA, I felt that I was not ready. I didn't have a good English. So in the university, I learned a lot of literature, history, culture, and all that kind of things. So I wanted to practice the language, and
Hmm.
I decided to be part of a summer camp out of Mexico just to practice my language, and it was like the beginning of everything. So my life changed from that moment because to meet people from another country to practice the things that you learned during many years was like awesome because you you can you have the ability to communicate with people like in your own language. So I started to uh, find places to practice my English more. And I went to Canada actually in 2018 to
Hmm.
study more English. And that's how I learned English. It has been a long process. So it was since I was in secondary school.
Was there a moment where it sounds like you made a decision to go to university and study English? Was there a moment where suddenly you liked English? Sounds like you
Yeah.
didn't like it for a while and then changed. What made you decide, hey, English is kind of cool?
Um, when I got my first A note. So that was
Okay,
the
so a little
moment that,
confidence, right?
yeah, because uh, I had really bad notes when I was in secondary school. When I went to high school, to senior high school, and I started to go to get good notes, I said, "Oh, I like it. I like it, and I want to know more." So I think that was the moment when I decided to learn English
Yeah.
more.
I'm going to share a little secret with you and the gang here. When I was in high school, I almost failed the whole year too, my last year. I was a terrible high school student. I spent all my time playing sports and I didn't care about studies. So I had to take some summer school to lift my grade up so I could pass. I did well in university, but High school, I was a terrible student. So I
So
know what that's like.
by that time, did you know that you wanted to be a teacher, or you took the
No, no, no.
decision like after?
In my case, in high school, I had never imagined being a teacher at all. I didn't think about being a teacher till I was in my late 30s, Angel.
Oh,
Late 30s, 37, 38. I'm 55 now. So when I was 37, 38, this idea of becoming a teacher popped up. I was good at English. That was always my best class, English or English literature. So I had some talent for the language. Never imagined I'd be a teacher. It's crazy. It's a very new thing for me. Um,
something similar to me. I never thought to be a teacher, and actually,
mhm.
I wasn't one of those students who like to uh, playing around and just hang out with
Yeah,
friends and stuff. So I used to say, I don't want to be at school. I want to be like free, finish high school, study a career, and study something that let me travel around the world. But
yeah.
something happened, and English was what give me that chance to travel around the world.
It sounds too like you reached that point where you found that you had some skill with it, and that gives you some confidence, right? And that can
Yeah,
maybe give you a career direction. That's a great insight for young people everywhere. Is you know sometimes if you're not sure what you want to do something you're good at, right? That's not a bad direction to start going,
yeah, and
right?
actually, I tell my students my this story about my life, and just to encourage them to study English, because when they struggle with structures or pronunciation or something, I just tell them I had the same problem, but English is like the gym. If you go to the gym and you are on diet and you are disciplined, so you can get the body that
Yeah,
you want. With English, it's
true.
the same. Even though when you can speak English, but if you don't practice, like the gym, if you stop going to the gym, you lose the advance that you have. So it's the same. It's
Absolutely.
like a constant work that you have to do.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I always try to convince learners that learning English is not a, or any language for that matter, it's not a knowledge. It's not something you learn and memorize. It's something you do. It's a skill, the same way exercise or playing a sport is. In fact, it is a physical skill because we use these muscles, lips and tongue, to produce language. And we use those muscles differently in our native language. When you speak Spanish, your muscles are working differently. Just like when you play tennis or basketball, you're using your muscles differently. So we have to practice, right? We have to use our skill, um, or we lose it. So you're right to believe that, and you're right to encourage your learners to think that way. Learning the language is a long game. Just like if you want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's going to take some time.
Yes, and it's a process that keeps going. Even when we are teachers, we keep learning techniques to teach students and stuff. So I think that it's a process that never ends. But if you like
Yeah.
it, you enjoy it. It's like really cool.
I have a I have a more serious, a little bit of a serious question for you, Angel. I mentioned
Yep.
earlier that there is a kind of prejudice, a kind of discrimination against non-native English speaking teachers of English. Have you ever experienced this? Like when you're looking for a job, did they say, "Oh, we only hire native speakers" or something? Have you ever experienced this kind of discrimination? Because that's what it
Mm,
is.
yeah, I know. But in my personal case, no, I haven't. The thing is that I've
Good.
worked as a teacher in Mexico my whole life. So most of the teachers here are Mexican. In my case, it's kind of advantage that I have been in other countries, so that
Yep.
gives me applause because some schools like give you extra points to, or they like to have teachers who have experience working abroad. So
Hmm.
I I haven't worked as a teacher abroad, but I worked for a summer camp, and I was working as a counselor, cabin counselor in a summer camp. So it was kind of teaching, and that experience helped me to or gave me more tools that I implement to my students. So
Great.
I think that it's a benefit if you have the opportunity to travel as a teacher. If you can travel and get some experience out of your country, it helps you a lot. So in my case, I haven't experienced that discrimination.
I'm happy to
So
hear that. Definitely happy to hear that. I'm just going to interrupt our chat for a minute because someone asked me a question related to our vocabulary word. Someone
yeah,
asked me the difference between amiable and amicable. So I'd just like to clarify that. It's quite simple. Amicable is a friendly action. So we said amiable relates to the person. Oops, sorry guys. Amicable. Amicable means a friendly action. Could be a friendly action between people, like a friendly conversation. You often hear this, unfortunately, when we hear about divorce between married couples. If they divorce, but in a friendly way, in a respectful way, we would say an amicable divorce. So it's an action done in a friendly way. Right now, we're having an amicable conversation. I have another question for you, Angel.
yeah.
In Mexico, clearly, by the way, clearly you're a successful teacher despite being not a native English speaker because you have lots of loyal students here watching us on the show tonight. So that's impressive
I
that
have
you have.
amazing Yeah, I have amazing students, so I'm really happy with my students. They are really cool.
And you know, this also demonstrates what's really important for a teacher. What's really important for a teacher is not their native language, because by the way, you're not testing the teacher. What's really important is that you care about your learners and you care about helping them improve, right? That is what you do as a teacher, is helping them improve their skill. And clearly you do that. And maybe part of that is just learning to care about people and to feel their experience, developing empathy. And maybe your experience with the camp helped you learn how to do that, help you learn how to help people. Is that true, do you think? Do you think the camp experience helped you learn how to help people or coach them or train them or lead them?
Yeah, actually, I learned a lot in when I was working at camp because we had like a lot of uh, we had a training to make planners for the activities, and the activities were sports and artistic activities. But at the end, they teach us to teach young learners. So I just learned a lot at camp that helped me with my students. Actually, it's a good experience when you work as a counselor.
Great. Angel, I have a question here from Sebastian. Can you scroll up to that one a little bit higher? He's asking you a question, just a little bit up. Huh. I think we might have battery issues here.
Oh, yes,
Here we
that
go.
question probably is because I was working with them with a course of interpreting. So we were just reading about the different interpreting modes, and we found that in Mexico, most universities are just um, to become a teacher, but they don't train you to be a interpreter. So we found a lot of information about this this area. Interpreting is something really huge. It's a lot of commitment. You have to uh, get a good English level. So probably that's why Sebastian is asking that question.
I
And
see. Okay.
you can help us with that.
Hmm. Well, interpret together with foreigners in a matter of work. Yeah, you're right. Interpreting, by the way, is not the same as translating, right? Translating is you take a document and you change it to another language. Interpreting is usually done live in a conversation. You see this when we have international politics meetings, right? The politicians might speak a different language, and there's a staff. They have earplugs and they interpret them. What that means by interpreting is that they're translating, but they're also identifying the subtle meanings that are communicated, the hidden meanings sometimes. That's what they have to dig out because sometimes that's not communicated in the words. So you're right. I think to be a professional interpreter, you need a very high level of both languages, right? Um, and then you have to train on that. I'm sure there's a whole degree program or major you can do in interpreting. We have another question here from Axel Garcia. Maybe you can answer this one, Angel.
My question is, how can I start an English course in Mexico? Mm, well, how can I start an English course? Probably you can find a lot of information on internet first, and try to find good sources about it. I think that we have a lot of information on YouTube actually that makes
Mm-hmm.
everything easier. So probably you can start with that, trying to find a lot of information, and then just make a plan to do it.
Maybe they can study with you.
Yes, of course. Actually, Axel is one of my students, and he is a good student. He is just
Okay.
13 years old, and actually, he is a really good, a
Okay.
good student.
By the way, Angel, if somebody wants to study with you, where do they find you? Do you want to put your link or something
Yep,
in the comment
I
thread?
can. I'm going to write my Facebook because it's the one I have
Sure.
closer. So you can find me like Angel Chimi. Angel Chimi is like my nickname because my real last name is Ramirez, but I like that people call me by my nickname. I
Hmm.
feel like more comfortable. Okay, I'm going to put my link.
Great. Thank you. Lots of questions for you here. There's one down below I'd like to bring up down at the bottom. Tip, something with tip in it. Can you scroll down, 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 down. Yeah, that one. Some tips that you recommend. What do you think about this, Angel?
Okay,
How can I improve my English? Do you have a couple of tips?
wow. I think it depends on you. What are your likes? But I think one of the best way that helped me to improve my English was watching series, and watch the series in both languages, just to try to know how to say something in English because it's not literally. So I want that's something I do just to find a lot of vocabulary that
Yeah,
I use when I started learning English. That's something I used to do.
that's a good tip. Watch movies, watch TV, watch series.
And practice with people. That's something that I have been working with my students. Try to find some spaces like the conversation cafe with you, just
Yeah.
to lose that fear to make mistakes at speaking, or don't be more confident when you are
Hmm.
face to face to a person who doesn't speak your language. I think that
Yeah.
probably that's the best way. Yes.
Yeah. You really have to get through the fear of making mistakes because that's the advantage babies have, right? When babies are trying to learn the language, they don't care if they make mistakes. They don't even think about it. They just want to talk to their friends. And that lets them develop their language very quickly. Whereas when we're adults, we're always worried, oh, if I make a mistake, you know, the boy across the room won't think I'm cute, or my teacher will think I'm dumb, or my friends won't like me. All these stupid things we think about as adults
Actually,
that
that's
cause
something
us
that
to
happens a lot at
avoid.
school. When you're at the school,
Yeah,
you are afraid to make a mistake, but you're learning.
yeah, you have
That's
to.
why you are.
You know, if you ever learn a new sport, uh, you know, you make thousands of mistakes for a long time. Think about uh, sometimes there's a park near me, and I see some young guys playing basketball, and they're shooting thousands of shots, and only a small number go in. So that means all those shots that bounced off the net, those are mistakes because they didn't score. So they go through thousands of shots to get one in. So the same with learning a language. You have to go through thousands of mistakes to get it right. And that takes time, and you just can't be afraid of it. You just got to go for it. No one cares if you make mistakes, right? Everyone
Yes.
makes mistakes when they're learning language.
Everybody makes mistakes, and you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
I think there is another recommendation from Farqueto. Listening to music also helps a lot, especially with pronunciation of you sing along. Especially, I
Yeah.
think, especially when you sing along, alone. I think when you sing
Along.
along,
Yeah.
I think that that really helps. When I'm alone, I sing
Yeah.
a lot, but when
That's great.
I'm in public, I don't like to sing.
One thing we do have to be careful of with music is that music has no obligation to be correct grammar or even correct pronunciation because it's poetry. Lyrics are poetry. So they have to be rhythmic. So they might twist and turn the language. Uh, so you have to be. They also use literary techniques like rhyming, metaphor, simile, and those can be very confusing for a beginner. So a beginner should be careful with music because it can be confusing in a different way. But someone like yourself, it's a great way to practice. Um, I'm just realizing we have only a few minutes left, Angel. Do you have any advice for language learners, English learners in this case, who want to be teachers at some point? What advice would you give someone who wants to be a teacher of English, but English is not their native language, like your case?
Okay. Well, I think that just break the fear, break that barrier. Uh, 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 when you feel that you are not good enough, so just try to find the way to practice. Just try to teach uh, your siblings, or probably your cousins, or with your family. Probably you can start with that, and then you can start to work with people who is not your friend or your family, just to break that fear to uh, to make a mistake or something. Because I think that that's something that all teachers, when are starting to teach, have that fear to that that fear to make a mistake, or just be in public, or stand in front of people.
It's very true, Angel. You studied at a language school in Canada. I know that because I worked at that same school, which is where we met. And I'll tell you, all those teachers, um, I think 90% of them are native speakers. There's a few whose English is second language, but all of them are also afraid. They're afraid that their students will ask them a question, they have no answer for it. They're afraid of making a mistake. They're afraid of teaching something incorrectly or not being able to teach and help the student. They're always afraid, right? But the difference is they do it anyway. They push through that. That's really the definition of courage, right? Be afraid because that's natural, but do it anyway. So your advice is the same advice I would give a native speaker teacher. You're going to be afraid. When I started teaching, I was terrified. I'm going to stand up in front of a class and explain English. What if they think I'm an idiot? That's what I was worried about.
Yes,
So you got to do it anyway.
just break that barrier. And even though today I was really uh, nervous to be here because you are like in front of a lot of people. So, but I was like, okay, it's okay. It's nothing is going to happen if I make a mistake. It's okay.
Nothing's going to happen. By the way, this is a live show, and I don't necessarily prepare what I say on the show, so I make mistakes all the time. I can catch myself making a small mistake, um, because to be honest with you, I'm not a great speaker. I'm a pretty good writer, and I can understand English, but not a great speaker. I'm not a politician. Um, so when I'm speaking live like this, sometimes a little wrong word or word form slips out. Um, it happens. So nobody should be afraid of that.
Yeah, and the
But we,
conversation cafe is an excellent opportunity to practice English. So I want to invite everybody who is watching this live to join to the conversation cafe. It's really funny.
mm,
You learn a lot. You meet people from all over the world, and you know it's amazing experience to practice your English and be conscious that you can communicate with
yeah,
people even though you make mistakes or
yeah,
if you don't have a perfect pronunciation or something like that. So
yeah.
that's
It's almost a
really good.
miracle, isn't it? When you meet your friends from around the world at the conversation cafe, and you speak English, and even if you make a mistake, they still understand your idea. That's when you know you're succeeding, right?
Yes,
It's like the real life test.
yes. So guys, you have to try it. It's it's going to be really funny, amazing, and uh, I don't know. You are going to learn a lot
Yeah.
practicing your
Let's bring
English.
the let's bring the graphic up for them of the conversation cafe. Remind them. So this is every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Vancouver time, and it's free, but you have to register in advance so I can email you the link. It's on Zoom. So contact me at on Facebook, or I'm sure if you can contact Angel, Angel can connect them to the link because I'll just give you the link or tag you in the link, Angel, and you can get your students to join us.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a really fun activity. Everyone is welcome, and so far we've had students and teachers and learners and friends from all over the world join. It's been really fun.
Yes, and just be be relaxed. Everything
Yeah.
is going to be really good.
Well, Angel, we're out of time, so I'm going to say goodbye and thank you very much for joining the show today.
It
And
was a
thank you very
pleasure.
much for great, wonderful. The pleasure is all mine. And thank you to all your loyal students and friends who have joined us. It's great to have them with us as well. So, thank you, Angel Ramirez. Keep being a great teacher, and let's do a little high five here.
I think this is the other end. High
Okay,
five.
great. Okay, bye bye, Angel. Take care.
Thank
See you
you.
soon. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to Angel Ramirez, my friend and peer in Mexico. Great teacher, doing great work with his students. Well, that's all the time we have today, guys. So I'm going to say a round of thank yous to our long list of people here. So bear with me. It's going to be like a tongue twister. Here we go. Thank you for watching to Chris, Pony, Satoru, Sayed, Yoshishige, Maria, Sujay, Estrella, Iraq, Jesil, Ricardo, Rehana, Irazima, Husnain, Angelica, Robin, Angel, of course, Ramses, Riaz, Marco, Mafer, Adru, Tirath, Natalia, Katongo, I still don't know where you're from, Tinka, Adril, Miguel, Serate, Josie, Axel, Vivi, Veronica, Lucy, Violetta, Rod, Joseph, Iris, Casti, Hiroko, Meche, Ramses, Ramirez, Espinosa, Julio, Ponce, Adriana, Luis, and if I've missed you, I'm sorry. Thank you very, very much, guys. Thank you to Angel Ramirez for joining us and giving us his insights as a non-native English teacher. If he can do it, you can do it. So if you want to be a teacher, go for it. Don't let the existing prejudice out there stop you. I'll see you next week, guys, Friday night at 7 p.m. Vancouver time. So calculate that wherever you are in the world. And wherever you are in the world, stay safe, keep learning English. And until next week, stay